The night my brother changed the locks, I had just come off a 10-hour shift at the hospital where I work as a surgical technician. My scrubs smelled like antiseptic and exhaustion. I remember sitting in my car in the parking garage for a few extra minutes because my feet hurt and I wanted one moment, just one, before I walked back into a house that never quite felt like mine anyway. I had been living with my brother and his wife for 2 years. After our mother passed, it made sense. At least, that's what I told myself. My brother said it made sense too. Family sticks together, he said at Mom's funeral, gripping my shoulder while people handed him casseroles. I believed him. I was 29 years old, and I believed him. What I didn't understand then, what took me an embarrassingly long time to figure out, is that family sticks together sometimes means you stay and make our lives easier, and we'll let you call this home. My key didn't work that Wednesday night in November. I tried it twice, turning it slowly, then hard. I knocked. I rang the doorbell. I could see the kitchen light on through the window beside the door, that warm amber glow I had spent 2 years cooking under, and I stood on the porch in my scrubs in 40-degree weather and rang the doorbell again. My sister-in-law opened the door. She didn't open it all the way. She stood in the gap with one hand on the frame and looked at me the way you look at someone trying to sell you something you don't want. "We changed the locks," she said. I stared at her. "I live here." "You lived here," she said. Past tense. "Your brother and I talked about it, and we need the space. The girls are getting older, and they each need their own room." She paused. "Your things are in the garage. You can take them tonight." I asked her where my brother was. She said he was putting the girls to bed, and couldn't be disturbed. I stood there on the porch where I had scraped ice every winter morning, so nobody slipped, where I had repainted the front steps the previous spring because my brother kept saying he'd get to it and never did, and I felt something very quiet happen inside me. Not rage. Not tears. Something more like a door closing. "Okay," I said. She blinked. I think she expected something else. "I'll get my things," I said. My life fit into the back of a Honda CR-V, with the seats folded down and 2 boxes stacked on the passenger seat. I found out later she had already gone through my room and packed everything herself. She had used garbage bags for my books. I drove to a 24-hour diner 3 miles away and sat in a booth and ordered coffee. I didn't drink and tried to figure out what to do at 9:30 on a Wednesday night in November with a car full of garbage bags. I had about $4,000 in savings. I had my job. I had my phone, which showed one text from my brother sent 40 minutes earlier that said, "I'm sorry it came to this. Natalie thinks it's best. I hope you understand." I read that text 4 times. I hope you understand. I put my phone face down on the table. A woman named Dolores, who owned a house 12 minutes from the hospital, had rented a room to a colleague of mine 2 years back. My colleague had mentioned it once in passing. "Dolores is the best landlady, keeps to herself, reasonable rent, nice yard." I had saved the information somewhere in the back of my mind, the way you save things you don't think you'll need. I needed it. I called her at 10:15 at night, and she answered on the 3rd ring, and I told her I was a surgical tech at Street Anthony's, that I was a friend of Priya's, that I was very sorry for the hour, and I understood completely if this wasn't a good time, but I was looking for a room and wondering if she still had one available. She was quiet for a second. Then she said, "Can you come by now? I'll put the porch light on." I cried in my car for about 2 minutes before I put it in drive. Just 2 minutes, then I wiped my face and went. Dolores was 63 years old, with reading glasses pushed up on her head, and a gray braid, and a calm that felt like standing near a fireplace. She showed me the room, small, clean, window facing the backyard, a maple tree just outside the glass. She told me the rent, which was lower than I expected. She told me the rules, which were simple. She made me tea I didn't ask for, and we sat at her kitchen table for 20 minutes, and she didn't ask me what happened, which I was grateful for, because I didn't have words for it yet. I moved my garbage bags in that night. I lay on the floor because the bed frame was still in the car, and I wasn't going to drag it in at midnight, and I stared at the ceiling and listened to the maple tree moving in the wind outside the window, and I made a list in my head. The list was just facts. I had a room. I had a job. I had $4,000. I was 30 years old in 12 days. I was going to be fine. I said that last part out loud, quietly, to the ceiling. I was going to be fine. The first week, I worked. I showed up to every shift, did the work, came home to Dolores's house, and ate whatever I could put together from the small grocery runs I made after shift. I didn't call my brother. I didn't call Natalie. I didn't reach out to explain myself or apologize or ask for another conversation. There was nothing to explain. There was nothing I had done. That was the thing I kept coming back to, those first quiet nights. I kept waiting to find the thing I had done, the mistake I had made, the line I had crossed. I thought about it the way you probe a sore tooth carefully, searching for the source. But there was nothing. I had paid my share of the utilities every month without being asked, always a few days early. I had covered groceries more weeks than I hadn't. I had picked up my nieces from school on the days Natalie had her appointments, had sat with them at the kitchen table, doing second-grade math, and reading their library books out loud to them until they fell asleep. I had fixed the garbage disposal twice. I had shoveled the driveway all of last winter because my brother's back was bothering him. I had made myself useful. I had made myself quiet, and I had made myself invisible, which, I was starting to understand, was not the same as making myself safe. My colleague Priya found me in the break room on day 4 eating a granola bar between cases, and she looked at me for a long moment and said, "You're at Dolores's, aren't you?" It wasn't really a question. "She texted me," Priya said. "She didn't say anything specific, just asked if I knew you well. I told her you were one of the best people I'd ever worked with." She sat down across from me. "What happened?" I told her. Just the facts, the same way I'd told the ceiling. By the time I finished, Priya had her arms crossed and was looking at the wall. "Your brother let his wife do it," she said finally. "He didn't even come to the door. He was putting the girls to bed." Priya looked at me. "Ellie." "I know," I said. "You know what I think?" she said. "I think you've been so good at making everything easy for everyone else that nobody in that house had any idea how much was going to break the moment you stopped." I thought about that for the rest of my shift. On day 7, my phone rang while I was between cases. My brother. I looked at it, let it go to voicemail. He didn't leave one. 20 minutes later, another call. I let it go. He texted, "Can we talk? Natalie wants to know if you have the insurance paperwork from Mom's estate. She can't find it in any of the files." I stared at that text for a long time. The insurance paperwork. The files I had organized after Mom died. The ones I had spent 3 weekends sorting and scanning and labeling because my brother was too broken up about it. The ones I had kept because I was the one who dealt with the estate attorney. The ones I had now, that I thought about it taken with me, in a banker's box that was currently sitting on the floor of my new room, next to 3 garbage bags of books. I did not respond. On day 9, Natalie called. I declined it. She called again. I declined it. She texted, "This is important. The accountant needs that paperwork by end of month. Can you just drop it off, or scan it and send it? I know things are weird right now, but this is really time sensitive. Things are weird right now." I read that text standing in the parking lot after my shift, keys in my hand, and I laughed. Not a happy laugh, a very tired one. Things are weird right now. They had changed the locks on a Wednesday night in November and put my books in garbage bags, and now things were weird. I didn't respond to that one either. On day 10, I got home from an early shift to find 3 missed calls from my brother, one from Natalie, and one from a number I didn't recognize that turned out, when I listened to the voicemail, to be my Aunt Carol, calling from her landline in Dayton because apparently my brother had called her asking if she'd heard from me. My aunt's message said, "Honey, I don't know exactly what's happening, but Marcus called here sounding very stressed and said the heat went out and there's some issue with the homeowner's warranty and he can't find the paperwork and he was asked if you had it. Also, I think he might have been crying a little. Call me back. I love you." I sat in my car in Dolores's driveway and listened to that voicemail twice. The heat. Of course. I had set up the homeowner's warranty when they bought that house 3 years ago because my brother didn't understand the enrollment window and asked me to just handle it. The documentation was in the same banker's box as the estate paperwork. The warranty company's customer service number was saved in my phone under House Warranty Marcus because of course it was. My phone buzzed while I was still sitting there. A text from my brother. Ellie, where are you? The furnace company won't come out without proof of the warranty. It's going to be in the 20s tonight. Then another. The girls are asking about you. Then, 10 minutes later, one from Natalie. I want you to know that I didn't mean for this to be so abrupt. I just think we need some space and things got out of hand. Can we meet for coffee and talk? I counted the messages. Between texts, missed calls, and my aunt's voicemail, 23 in one day. I called my Aunt Carol back. We talked for 45 minutes, which is how long it takes Aunt Carol to fully circle a subject from every angle, and by the end of it she had said, quietly and with great care, you know you don't owe anyone anything right now, baby. You just got the rug pulled out from under you. You're allowed to take care of yourself first. I told her I was okay. She said she knew. She said she was proud of me anyway. I went inside and had dinner with Dolores, who was making chicken soup and listening to an audiobook in the kitchen, and she handed me a bowl without making it a thing, and I sat at her table and ate it and felt, for the first time in 10 days, completely at ease. I did not respond to my brother. I did not respond to Natalie. I did not send the paperwork. By day 14, the messages had stacked up to 47. My brother found the warranty information. Eventually he called the furnace company directly and they looked it up by address, which he could have done at any time. I know this because my aunt told me, who heard it from my brother when he called her back to say the heat situation was resolved. He had apparently also mentioned that the house was a lot to manage and that Natalie was overwhelmed. I heard that and felt something I'm not sure I have a name for. Not satisfaction exactly. More like clarity. Like a picture coming into focus. There's a specific kind of tired that comes from carrying things for other people for so long that you forget you're carrying them. You just think it's weight. You think it's normal. You think this is what living feels like. And then one day the weight is gone, and you stand up straight for the first time in years, and realize you don't actually know what your own posture feels like, and you have to learn it from scratch. I was learning it. At work, I applied for the hospital's surgical technician to surgical first assistant bridge program. I had been eligible for 18 months. I had always had a reason to put it off. The timing wasn't right. The extra hours would be hard to manage around the household schedule. I'd look into it next quarter. The application took 45 minutes. My supervisor, a surgeon named Dr. Okafor, who I had worked alongside for 3 years, wrote my recommendation letter the same day I asked. She said, and I'm paraphrasing, because she would probably be embarrassed if I quoted her exactly, that she couldn't understand why I hadn't applied sooner, and that I was exactly the kind of person the program was designed for. I had not known she thought that. I had never asked. I started getting up early and running in Dolores's neighborhood in the mornings, something I hadn't done since before Mom got sick. I reorganized my room. I bought a real bookshelf, not a garbage bag, and put my books in it alphabetically, which is how I've always wanted them and never had the wall space for in a room I half felt I was borrowing. I got a plant. I named it something stupid and kept it alive. At 6 weeks, the messages from my brother had tapered off. He sent one last long one in early December that I read fully. It was the most honest thing I think he had ever written to me. He said he knew what Natalie had done was wrong. He said he had told himself it was her decision because it was easier than disagreeing with her, and he understood now that being passive about something wrong is its own kind of wrong. He said he missed me. He said the girls asked about me at dinner sometimes, and he didn't know what to tell them. He did not ask me to come back. That was the part that surprised me. He just said he was sorry, and he understood if I needed space, and he hoped I was okay. I sat with that message for a few days. I thought about what I wanted. Not what I was supposed to want, not reconciliation for the sake of it. Not forgiveness as a performance. Not the version of healing that looks good at Christmas and falls apart by February. What I actually wanted. What I wanted was for my nieces to know I hadn't disappeared. They were 7 and 9, and none of this was theirs. I called my brother on a Sunday afternoon, and we talked for 22 minutes, which was careful and a little awkward, and probably necessary. I told him I wasn't ready to see Natalie. He said he understood. I asked if I could take the girls for lunch sometime, just me and them. He said yes immediately, before I'd finished the sentence. I did not ask about the estate paperwork. I did not offer to send it. I did not volunteer to fix anything. I answered the questions he asked, and did not fill the silence with things he hadn't asked for. It was the shortest phone call I'd ever had with my brother. It was also the most equal one. That was the strange part, actually. That was the thing I kept thinking about in the weeks after. In 2 years of living in that house, of being useful and quiet and easy to overlook, I had never once had an equal conversation with my brother. There was always something I was managing or explaining or smoothing over. There was always a reason to make myself smaller so the room felt bigger for everyone else. I had thought that was love. I had confused being needed with being valued, and I had confused both of those things with belonging. They are not the same. Dolores told me something once, a few months in, when we were sitting on her back porch watching the maple tree drop its last leaves before winter. She said, "My grandmother used to say that the people who take you for granted only notice what you are when you're not there anymore." She said it without looking at me, just watching the leaves. The trouble is, you have to be gone before they learn it. And by then, you've already built a life somewhere else. I thought about that for a long time. My bridge program started in January. I am one of 6 people in the cohort. Dr. Okafor tells me I'm ahead of where she expected me to be at this point, which she says with the particular flatness of someone who does not exaggerate and therefore means it fully. I come home to Dolores's house in the evenings, and eat dinner, and study at the kitchen table, and go to bed at a reasonable hour, and wake up and run, and go back to work. The house is quiet. It is mine in a way a house has never been mine before, not because I own it, but because I belong in it, because I'm welcome in it, because nobody in it sees me and thinks about what I can do for them. I never sent the estate paperwork. I transferred the relevant copies to my brother's attorney directly, through proper channels, so there's a paper trail and nothing goes missing and I'm not in the middle of it. Clean. Done. My birthday came in November, the day before the anniversary of the locks being changed. Dolores made a cake. Priya and 2 other people from work came over. We sat around Dolores's kitchen table and ate cake and talked too loud, and at some point Dolores's cat knocked a glass off the counter, and we all jumped and then laughed for about 5 minutes longer than the situation warranted. It was the best birthday I could remember having in a long time. My phone had 51 messages in those first 3 weeks after I left. I know the exact number because I counted them later, the way you count something once it can't hurt you anymore. My brother. Natalie. My aunt. A cousin who had heard something. A second cousin, who probably hadn't but was curious. 51 messages from people who had, in various ways and to varying degrees, watched my life get packed into garbage bags and never once said, while it was happening, wait. I did not respond to most of them. The ones I did respond to, I responded to on my own time, in my own words, without rushing to make anyone comfortable. Here is the hardest thing I learned, and I mean the real hardest thing, not the palatable version you put on a coffee mug. Being the person who holds everything together is not the same as being loved. It can look identical from the outside. It can feel identical from the inside, for years, until one Wednesday night in November when the key doesn't work and you understand, standing on a porch you repainted yourself, that useful and beloved are 2 entirely different things. And if you have spent your whole life being one while quietly hoping it would become the other, the moment you realize it won't is both the worst thing and the most clarifying thing that will ever happen to you. I am not glad it happened. I want to be honest about that. I don't think everything happens for a reason, and I don't think I needed to be hurt to learn something, and I don't think my brother's passivity was a gift in disguise. It was just a wound. Wounds don't need to be gifts. They just need to heal. But I am here, in a room with a bookshelf and a plant and a maple tree outside the window. With a job I am finally growing in. With a landlady who makes chicken soup and doesn't ask questions I'm not ready to answer. With 2 nieces I am taking to lunch on Saturday. And a brother I am learning, slowly and carefully, to know as an adult rather than a story I told myself. I am here, and for the first time in longer than I want to admit, Here feels like exactly where I'm supposed to be.